It seems that a lot of people don't know what the oath of office is. Could you just tell real quickly the viewers what the oath of office is?
Sure, of course.
Of all the politicians in Washington, Democrats, Republicans, all of them?
Well, you know, they probably know what it is, but the money they get is probably more important to them right now. But the oath of office is to support and defend the Constitution from domestic or foreign enemies. And very simple. The problem is, nobody keeps that oath.
Okay, why?
Or very few.
Why? Is there no penalty for breaking the oath of office? Now, I have a friend who's a retired major general, and he says when a military officer breaks his oath of office, it's Leavenworth. Now,
two things. You got to follow the money. All right, our elected officials, by and large, are being bought off. It happens through earmarks. It's the good old boy club, and there are a lot of women in it too. But they get paid to vote certain ways, big money, and so that's why they've stopped listening to the people. And that's the one thing. The other thing is the fox is guarding the hen house right now. So we have Congress establishing for itself its own automatic annual 5% pay raise. Isn't that wonderful? So
yeah.
I think that we need to remove that jurisdiction from Congress, put it back on the states,
yeah.
and let the states decide what they get
yeah.
paid.
Now, there's a problem there. Definitely. Now, in the Constitution, it says senators and congressmen cannot be arrested for a misdemeanor, but it doesn't say they can't be arrested for perjury or violating their oath of office.
You know,
so if someone were to be arrested, who would be the person arresting? And I asked this question to my retired Major General friend. I said, who would it be that would arrest a politician for violation of oath of office? What's your answer to that?
I don't know. I think the people collectively could do that.
Should we all store? Well, he actually said it'd be the
Call
attorney.
out the militia.
He said it would be the Attorney General's office.
You know, that's probably accurate, but generally speaking, the president chooses a friend to be the Attorney General, and whether the Attorney General will do that, I don't know. But I think the point that the greater point or the principle is that our elected officials do not live by the same standards that we do by any stretch of the imagination.
Yes.
And they make their own laws, their laws unto themselves. They don't get the same kinds of retirement that we do. We have Senator Byrd in there. He's, what is he, 92 years old? When he retires, he's going to have about $7.5 million that will be coming to him in retirement. Wow. And that's just wrong. Our founders wanted elected officials to be servants of the people, and they didn't elect a royalty. That's what we're doing today.
Okay, great. Well, that's one of the purposes of the documentary, is let people know that there is an oath of office, what it is, and we as citizens have an obligation that's just as serious as being citizens. We as citizens have an obligation to support and defend the Constitution. Is that right?
That's correct. It's
Great.
we the people, remember.
Great. So we have a responsibility.
And you know, that's why, even though we're in a really dangerous time in our country right now, it's also a very exciting and hopeful time, because people are starting to wake up and they're coming out to those rallies and they are getting educated. And such as tonight on this debate, this room was full of people, and we want those people to come in. We need to remove the others, the progressives, the moderates that are the go-along to get along types. We don't need that anymore.
Well, the spirit of freedom, or fighting for freedom, is a great, exciting spirit, isn't it? And that's what we felt here tonight.
Absolutely. It was a wonderful evening.
Great. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, and good luck.
Thanks.
All right. What are your thoughts about everything that's going on and what you're doing?
Well, as I see it, there are three pillars in our nation that are crumbling, and a fourth that already has crumbled. And we've got to do the very best that we can to bolster up these pillars again. The first is our runaway fiscal policy. Second is our runaway illegal immigration policy. And the third is our runaway trade policy. All three of those together are bringing this nation down. And if we don't make corrections, we are fast going to become a third world economy. Now, the fourth pillar, I would say, is our moral foundation has crumbled and has been doing so for quite a long time. So we have to pull back to basics again. We need principles for a change. We need those principles of fiscal restraint, limited government, free market solutions, energy independence, and a strong national defense. And those are the things that I'm focused on. And back to the fiscal policy. Of course, we've got a runaway budget right now. We've been practicing Keynesian economics for a century now. That's the policy of tax, spend, debt, and regulate. That's what John Keynes loved. Why? Well, he was a socialist. So it's a socialist form of economics that is bringing a nation to exactly where we are, socialism, and dependency upon federal government and assistance. On the immigration side, this other pillar that I've talked about, we have runaway illegal immigration. It's depressing our wages. It's creating enormous burden on our economy because those social entitlements are being obtained without any one of those illegals paying into the system. We're creating hospital problems with illegals showing up and getting free services, and that's making our medical costs skyrocket. And so we've got to use some common sense to bolster up that pillar again. And what we need to do is, on my website, eagarforsenate.com, people can go and see what I propose in all of these three areas. But we have to get serious. I love what Arizona has done recently with the law. What a concept, that it's a state law now that it's illegal to be a legal immigrant. So Utah should do the same. Now, that third pillar that I talked about that I think is crumbling, I know is crumbling, and that is our trade policy. And I have learned that I stand alone amongst the candidates in this race on wanting to have fair trade, on wanting a moratorium on those free trade agreements called NAFTA, CAFTA, GATT, the World Trade Organization. You see, if any candidate stands up and says, I support and defend the Constitution as the supreme law of this land, and then they say they're for free trade, which the top challengers in this race have said, then I have to ask this question. Do they understand how the Constitution is being trampled on by, for example, the World Trade Organization that votes against our country most of the time, and decisions that Congress is making?
Do you think you have an advantage as a woman in Washington, D.C., and maybe you would have a special influence on maybe some of the other women?
I could, I don't know.
I could envision all the women getting together and really setting this country straight.
Well, I never vote by gender, but if I can just complete that little thought. But if those people who support this Constitution say they're for free trade, they either don't understand that or they're part of the problem. But as far as a gender issue and voting, I never do that. Now, in California, for example, we have Carly Fiorina and Chuck DeVore. Chuck DeVore is the conservative. I vote for Chuck DeVore. But there's a dynamic. When I was in Washington, I spoke to about 150 conservative policy leaders, and when I was finished, some of them approached me, and they did say that they were desperate for a conservative woman in the Senate because there are none. So I thought about that. Okay, in my 30 years of fighting radical feminism, I have learned that when a conservative woman walks in the room, we are their worst nightmare, those feminists, all right? So, all right, that may be a factor. And I certainly would love to go back to Washington with some of those good men that have been silenced into a corner for too long and put Barbara Boxer and Nancy Pelosi into their corners of silence for change. I could be up for that one.